Hi, I'm Eva, Adam's friend, and today we are going to address the topic of the so-called welfare state. Most of the contemporary states of the developed world are dragging behind them the backpack of a complex system of social security. Critics of the welfare state are often portrayed as ruthless welfare monsters who want the old, the sick, and the hungry to die on the streets without help. What about the welfare state in terms of classical liberalism? The concept of the welfare state is no longer associated with helping only the weakest or those who cannot help themselves. The welfare state has now evolved into a system where political elites tackle broad social problems related to education, family policy, health, or workers' rights in a blanket way, without distinguishing whether anyone really needs help. In this area, it has long been a question of defining minimum standards or targeted assistance. According to classical liberals, help from the public authorities has a place where, for objective reasons, a person cannot help himself. This applies, for example, to the disabled, the bedridden, the vision impaired, and so on. There, indeed, help is legitimate. Paradoxically, however, these people usually receive only the bare minimum. Through the welfare state, politicians want to help people in their plight. But instead, they are creating a group of citizens who are dependent on benefits permanently. When you only pay someone on the basis that they are out of work, you create an incentive for the number of such cases to increase. A similar problem is created, for example, by too high a minimum wage, which increases unemployment and thus the number of people dependent on benefits. By using social transfers, the welfare state may tend to undermine people's incentives to behave responsibly. Not to mention the fact that aid can be sometimes abused. The more complex welfare state, the more likely it is that money will go to those who are foxier than to those in genuine need. The welfare state is less cost-effective. Too much of the money is gobbled up by the redistributive bureaucratic machine before the money ever has a chance to reach those in need. Politicians are trying to appeal to the middle class, the largest voter base, but who also pay the highest taxes. In this way, the politicians pull money out of people's right-hand pockets in order to stick less into their left-hand pockets, which the state itself, popularly speaking, eats up. Classical liberals point out that welfare state aid often goes to large constituencies and not necessarily to those most in need. They also argue that self-help within the wider family, social assistance decentralized to the region or municipality, and private or religious charities are often more effective in the fight against poverty because of their greater proximity to the recipient. According to classical liberals, if social assistance already exists, it should be targeted. It is not a matter of the state providing all education, full health care, or blanket support for every single family. If we are to support someone, then support must be targeted and directed to the poorest and not to everyone, for example, through a negative tax system or by assessing people's wealth status. This rule will ensure that the state does not then need an endless amount of resources, which in turn creates room for tax cuts and for people to have more money left in their own pockets. See you again.
Bye.